Full card breakdown and picks for UFC Vegas 110. As always, you can call me Kunith. Let's make some money this week. At the top of the card in the main event, we have Steve Garcia fighting David Onama. Insane fight on paper, and you never know, might not be insane. It might end with an eye poke, but hopefully not. Steve Garcia coming into this one as a slight favorite. Money's been appearing to come in on David Onama throughout the week, but I think it's really hard to go against Steve Garcia right now because the dude hits like a beef patty and cheese during summer vacation. Hard. He's on that long winning streak of knocking people out outside of that most recent fight with Calvin Kattar, and he almost knocked Calvin Kattar out, which isn't something that people do. So even that is a feather in the cap to be able to floor that guy. And largely he's knocking these guys out with ground and pound after hurting them on the feet. Look at that fight against Costa. Some of the nastiest ground striking you're ever going to see or hear. And I say hear because it sounded like someone was slamming kitchen cabinets. Same thing against Kyle Nelson. And we watch him throw hard, fast combinations leading to finishes like against Sungwoo Choi, Shayleon Nerdenbeke. We saw that against Chase Hooper. He's easily one of the most dangerous guys in the division right now. Would I say he's one of the best? I would not. He hits really hard, and I think that's largely because he's big for the division, and it seems like he's throwing as hard as he can. Nearly coming off of his feet with some of these strikes that he's throwing, and when you're that big, that tough, you're not worrying about what's coming back your way, you're going to get some good results. But I think that works outside of the top 10. Once you start to get to that higher level, I think that's when you have to be a bit more sharp, a bit more polished, a bit more technical. Throwing and falling over at the same time, it's just not going to work. But stuff like that will absolutely work in MMA as you're getting up to that level. On the other side, David Onama's on a winning streak as well, getting better as time goes on. He's winning in different ways as well. He's not just knocking guys out, but he's beating them at the game of MMA with timely takedowns, improved control, getting out of bad positions when he's rocked or getting taken down. He's been beyond impressive in my opinion. And the coolest part of his game is that the best part of his game is something that you can't be taught, and it's having that heart, that grit, that dog. You have to kill David Onama if you want to beat him, and that's cool, but that's also a problem. It's a problem that we know that, and the reason why we know that is because David Onama tends to get into these wars. Roberto Romero dropped him. Nate the Train had him in all kinds of hell. Gabriel Benitez was putting hands on him early in their fight. I really like his ability to fight from behind. It's something that few guys have, and I think that makes him a special talent, but I don't know if David Onama can survive being hurt by Steve Garcia. That follow-up is so vicious. You don't really see him let guys off the hook. You don't see guys come back into fights. You don't see guys even want to continue to fight after Steve Garcia starts doing what he does. I don't think it's really a matter of if Steve Garcia is going to hurt him. It's more about when. Because David Onama has like that Chito Vera in him where he's extremely tough, extremely dangerous, but tends to settle into fights before you see that dangerous piece of him come out. He's never really blitzing guys out the gate. He tends to get warmed up. He tends to settle in. He has to get hit a couple of times before he's really in it, and then once he's in it, he's hell. But I don't think you can start slow against a guy like Steve Garcia, because again, I respect Onama's ability to fight from behind, but guys don't tend to come back when Steve Garcia gets out in front. So I expect Onama to leave some openings in the beginning, especially like how he has that very relaxed style, high guard. Punches can get wrapped around that. Steve Garcia is no stranger to throwing that left hook, even without setting it up. Just that hard left hook right around the guard. Hard elbows in close as well. I think David Onama's kind of loose, relaxed style is going to hurt him early. If this gets extended, I could see it helping him later in this fight, but I don't think it would. I also think this fight can end because of a cut. David Onama's not the kind of guy to give up on himself, especially in a main event spot. So if he's not completely out, he's not going to stop moving. I could see him getting cut real bad and doctors having to stop it in between rounds. Either way, I think that Garcia is a nasty man. He's going to keep doing what he does. He's going to win this fight. Give me Steve Garcia by knockout. Next, we have Waldo Cortes-Acosta fighting Ante Delija. The heavyweight division has seen better days, let me tell you. Salsa Boy came up short last time out against Sergey Pavlovich. In that fight, he was a bit low volume, which tends to be the case with Salsa Boy. Dealt with the Russians' big power well, but I think he respected it a little bit too much. He'd get caught and get gun shy, and he conceded some ground, and I don't really think he had any strong rounds in that fight. Upon the rewatch, he was kind of letting Pavlovich do whatever he wanted, almost like he just wanted to survive. Now, Delija has everybody's attention. He ran through Marcin Tybura in his UFC debut. Those hands looked fast for heavyweight. The boxing looked sharp, and he got him out of there quickly. And also, being friends with Tom Aspinall and training with him, maybe he'll be his seeing eye friend for the next couple of weeks. A lot of people are very high on this guy. There's talk about him working his way up to the title real quick in this division, even to the point where Tom Aspinall says, I won't fight him. Delija says, I won't fight him either. But they're already looking at this guy as if he's going to be somebody competing for a UFC championship. I think the perception of that kind of language, that rhetoric, I think that's putting him on a higher pedestal than he might deserve, because I think a very slow, hittable Marcin Tybura is a great matchup for somebody like this guy. Waldo Cortes-Acosta's got a crazy chin. He's not just going to fold after you hit him and hurt him for the first time. Waldo's going to keep fighting you. I like the low kicks coming from Cortes-Acosta. That part of his game has improved. A guy who was more traditionally looking to box, now he's mixing in that low kick, which is nice. And I think he's just going to force this guy to fight. I think he might hit a little bit harder than Delija does, and even if he doesn't, I think that he's just going to force this guy to brawl. When he lands, he might get a bigger reaction than when Delija lands. We've seen Waldo Cortes-Acosta to come up with huge minutes in the final round, so I think the third round here, if it gets to that point, is going to go to the Dominican here. I like a stronger finish for him considering the caliber of talent we've seen him fight hard against late. And speed from Delija again jumps off the page, but all that's going to do is slow down as time goes on, and Cortes-Acosta can expedite that slowing down by throwing low kicks, getting to the clinch, making this guy work, counter striking effectively, standing his ground in spots. So I'm going to take the guy with more UFC experience to get it done. I think Waldo Cortes-Acosta wins this fight by decision. And real quick, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm. You know how the algorithm works. Next, we have two guys desperate for a win. You have Jeremiah Wells, Themba Gorimbo. It was not too long ago that people were telling me that I should be picking Themba Gorimbo over Vicente Luque. Absurd. He's not on that level. You're not that guy, pal. But is Jeremiah Wells on that level? No. I think Themba Gorimbo is rightfully favored here because Jeremiah Wells does his damage on the mat. We've seen Themba Gorimbo have trouble down there, like against AJ Fletcher or when Vicente Luque wrapped him up, but that was also after him getting rocked. And we've seen this guy taken down by Takashi Sato of all people. But what I like about Themba Gorimbo for this fight specifically is that he's scrappy. He's improving. He's a bit younger. He's at a different point in his career. Jeremiah Wells at 39, making 170 pounds. I know he's not the tallest guy going, but he's got a lot of muscle on that frame, and I think it's a lot for him. Like, that's too much. These are dog years that we're talking about. 39 is not old in real life, but when you're shooting for double legs, you're a senior citizen at that point. Plus, he showed really poor fight IQ in his last two fights. Against Carlston Harris, clearly beating Carlston Harris, and then just sticks his neck out there and gets guillotined, which you're grappling at this high of a level, you probably shouldn't be getting guillotined. And then he just looked unimpressive against Max Griffin. I know Max Griffin is a tough, tricky veteran to deal with at all times, but he just didn't look good at all. Just didn't really get much going against Max Griffin. I like the size. I like the anti-wrestling. I like the offensive wrestling coming from Themba Gorimbo in a fight like this. You get a guy like Jeremiah Wells on his back. He's used to being the one doing that. So this is a good bounce back spot in my opinion for Themba Gorimbo. It's more of a play against Jeremiah Wells, who I think is beyond his prime, and the fight IQ might not look great. Even against Matt Semmelsberger, fight IQ is not great. But I think the line could even be wider here. I think Themba Gorimbo is obviously the rightful side. Hell, this guy beat Ramiz Brahimaj, and Ramiz Brahimaj is killing everybody they're putting in there with him. So give me Themba Gorimbo to win this fight. I think Themba ends up winning by decision. A lot of knees to the thigh. He's going to knee to the thigh his way to victory. Yadier de Valle fighting Issac Dulgarian. Very much a coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb situation. Poor matchmaking by the UFC. Just poor. De Valle is a lot of fun and a guy who I think they should build up slowly. Maybe have him fight guys who want to strike more than anything, because this guy is going to go to war with you. He's very fun. I wouldn't say that he's got a ton of power, but he just does make it a scrappy fight. But against Issac Dulgarian, he's just going to get pounded into a flat sheet of nothingness. No way he stops Dulgarian from doing what he does best. Once he gets guys to the mat, gets in a dominant position, starts raining down those elbows, and nobody's been able to stop him except C-Rod. But of course, that's C-Rod. You're undefeated. You fight Christian Rodriguez, you're not undefeated anymore. That's science. De Valle looked good in his UFC debut. That was against Connor Matthews. A lot of guys tend to look good against Connor Matthews. Different ends of the spectrum. Even on Contender Series, we saw him fighting a guy who had nothing left to give, and De Valle is just clean punches, elbows, knees, and the guy's just eating everything. So I don't know if he's the most powerful guy going or if he was just fighting somebody who is made of rock, but I think Issac Dulgarian beats him pretty easily here. Give me Issac Dulgarian to win this fight by knockout. Next, we have a fight between Charles Radtke and Daniel Frunza. I don't rate Charles Radtke at all. I really don't, but we have seen him win in the UFC. We've seen him hurt guys with his hands. I can't say the same thing for Daniel Frunza. We watched him get absolutely slimed out by Reese McKee McKee in his UFC debut, dropped 3 times in the opening frame, cut up, the doctor ends up having to stop the fight. Feels like a Matthaus Rombeski situation. We talked about this last week with Ludovic Klein. You wear way too much damage. I can't trust you moving forward. Even on Contender Series, he got dropped in that fight. He ended up winning the fight. The dude's got a ton of heart. Like, you getting dropped 3 times by Rhys McKee and still making it to the stool, that's impressive stuff. But the fact that you're getting dropped, I don't like it. Against a guy like Charles Radtke, who does hit very hard, I'd like Charles Radtke there. He didn't look great against Mike Malott. I think he gives up a little bit of size in this division, but he is somebody who, once he starts getting his hands going and landing cleanly, you're not really going to be able to do much about it. Heavy left hooks finding a way home this week. I think Charles Radtke by knockout was one of the better plays of the card. And with that said, he probably ends up on the official betting article of the week. I'll show you the bets last week. They didn't come through in totality, but we did mitigate some serious damage. I'll show you what I mean. Wood versus Delgado under 2.5 rounds. Both guys getting dropped in the first round. We don't get a finish is crazy. Nathaniel Wood, small shot, round 3, doesn't come through. I'm not tripping over that. Heel hooks are bad for your health. That's the best breakdown you're ever going to see. Walter Walker saves us from being destroyed. Jun Young Park, not great. Bad read. Haqparast plus Dern, I thought equaled success. Clearly didn't. Nasrat Haqparast got perfectly head kicked. You can't really fault the guy. Rakic spent time away from family and changed his whole training situation to come back and put on a career worst performance. Crazy work. Jalton Almeida didn't get the sub. Tom Aspinall didn't get the sub. It was really Walter Walker saving us. And then I'll show you here in the betting group. If we come here, we look at the betting group. I did add, it's right here. Okay, so I did add 2 units to Nathaniel Wood, and anybody can post here, by the way. So if you want to go on there, post whatever, you can do that. Nathaniel Wood adding 2 units, did the damn thing. You call it a robbery. I call it success. So first down week since we made the site free about a month ago, but if you want to get the bounce back, which we will have this week at UFC Vegas 110, you can visit kunithmma.com, linked in the description and in a pinned comment. That's also where you'll see the DFS strategy guide. No DFS video this week. The travel gummed me up, but here we are. You can see all that linked in the description and in a pinned comment. Back to the breakdown. Next we have a fight between Allan Nascimento fighting Cody Durden, who actually steps in on short notice here, replacing Rafael Estevam. I really loved Allan Nascimento in this fight against Rafael Estevam. I don't like him as much against Cody Durden, but I do think that he's the rightful side here because Durden's had a rough couple of years now. Tagir Ulanbekov, Bruno Silva, Josh Van, Jose Ochoa, no shame in these losses. These dudes are killers, but he's taken a lot of damage, taken a lot of fights, just being very active, but losing rounds consistently outside of the fight with Matt Schnell. But for Allan Nascimento, the guy just wins. Big for the division, one of the better grapplers in the division, fighting out of a very good gym, and I think once he gets this fight to the mat, I expect him to get a finish. The thing you gotta like about Allan Nascimento is that he's so trustworthy down there. He's a one takedown a round kind of guy. He takes you down, the round either ends because you're submitted or it's you on your back. But either way, one takedown a round is all this guy needs. Of course, I would say Cody Durden is more dangerous on the feet. I think if it came down to pure wrestling, Cody Durden does have the advantage there. Where I think Allan Nascimento is going to get his takedowns, though, is kind of up against the fence in that body lock position like we see his training partner Charles do Bronx do. See Charles Oliveira grab guys up, kind of shelves them on his knee, elevates, and then gets him down to the mat. I could see Allan Nascimento doing the same thing to Cody Durden this week. I think those types of takedowns will be there for him. If he's just shooting double legs, it's not going to be there. But as soon as he gets him up against the fence, that's when he's going to be able to ground him, and that's where he's going to do what he does best. I really wouldn't touch this one, though, unless you're taking Cody Durden money line or you're taking Allan Nascimento by submission. And that's the pick, Allan Nascimento by submission. But this is a fight that I would stay away from. This could get ugly. Next, we have the UFC debut of Kevin Christian, light heavyweight, standing at 6 feet 7 inches. Big guy fighting Billy Elekana this week. If you haven't watched the Contender Series fight from Kevin Christian, I highly encourage you to watch it. Not because it's a good fight, because it's not. But I challenge you to watch it and point to somebody on the UFC roster who looks less athletic than this guy. This guy looks purely unathletic, very flat feet, moves very slowly, and the reason why he won is because in the first round, his opponent's on top of him for the entire round. He's throwing up some submission attempts, nothing really getting all that close to being locked in, but his opponent gasses so hard. I think it was just a nerves thing because he wasn't even doing much in top position for him to be gassing out like that. And Kevin Christian just kind of waited, played on his back. You've ever seen a guy who's 6'7" playing off of his back against the guy who's got a huge size advantage over? It looks ridiculous. But he's there, he's playing off of his back, he's not really doing anything. Second round starts, the guy he's fighting is just death gassed, right? Just has nothing left in the tank. And all Kevin Christian does is just kind of jab and wait and wait and wait until the guy ends up shooting for a takedown. Kevin Christian locks up a triangle choke, wins the fight. Good for him. Tall Brazilian guy ends up winning the fight. He gets the finish. He ends up getting the contract. That's cool. If Billy Elekana loses to this guy, I think he should just pack it up and go be a coach. For a guy that's fought Bogdan Guskov and had success early, for a guy that has the win over Ibo Aslan, albeit it wasn't a great fight, but he still beat Ibo Aslan, he cannot be losing to this guy. He simply cannot. So give me Billy Elekana to win this fight inside the distance. If you don't win Billy, don't bother coming home. Next, we have Timmy Cuamba fighting Chang Ho Lee this week. Close betting line, which we always like to see. Timmy Cuamba coming off his first UFC win, a fight where he was the slight underdog, ends up coming up with that great knockout via flying knee against Roberto Romero, same guy who gave David Onama some trouble in the opening round. Now, I think that fight is boosting these odds up a little bit. Of course, recency bias is always going to play into that. I'm not all that high on Timmy Cuamba. I think he's a little bit too hittable. Not high enough volume for a guy who wants to strike that much, in my opinion. He's only 26 years old, though. I can see this guy eventually fighting at a higher weight class because he is a bit thin, but he is a young guy, so he probably is going to end up filling out a bit more. The physicality is where he's running into some issues, and especially in this fight is where I think that's where he struggles. He could be taken down. He could be held against the fence. He's not really putting guys down with punches all that often. I think for those reasons, he's going to struggle against Chang Ho Lee because Lee hasn't been against the best competition, but he's leaning on that grappling. He's busy in top position. He's getting takedowns in these fights, and I expect the fight to happen on his terms. If they're striking, it's because he's letting him strike. If they're on the mat, it's because he's got his takedowns. A lot of fights come down to the person who's moving forward for most of it. Timmy Cuamba tends to give up a lot of ground, while Chang Ho Lee wants to be on that front foot. That forward pressure, multiple takedowns each round, making those takedowns count as well with that ground and pound should all lead to him winning on the scorecards, because what it comes down to is giving the judges something to judge. It's really hard to lose rounds if you're just doing significantly more than your opponent. Hell, look at last week. Nathaniel Wood just kept doing more. He was busier when it mattered, and as a result won on the judges scorecards. To go a step further, Umar Nurmagomedov gets dropped in the round and ends up winning the round because he immediately just popped back up to his feet and just kept doing more. So I think that Chang Ho Lee gives us more to judge, and as a result will win the fight. Give me Lee by decision. The odds are kind of indicative of this, but I think this is obvious. I think Dante Johnson's going to make good on his UFC debut. Last ride for Cedricus Dumas. This is fight 8 on the contract, so we know what that means. Dante Johnson, not the tallest guy in the division, but he hits really hard, and Cedricus Dumas is going to serve up that slim chin on a rolling tray. He's going to curl up like fried shrimp once we see Dante connect. We've seen this guy immediately look for a way out in past fights, like against Michal Leksichuk. He gets hit immediately. Nope, I don't want to fight anymore, and then gets mad at the stoppage. Like, come on, man. Dante Johnson by knockout. Let's move on. Ketlen Viera versus Norma Dumont. I feel like this is kind of the Spider-Man meme, but just with two of them pointing at each other. They both have had fights where they've done a lot and have been entertaining and have won in impressive fashion. They've also had their fair share of fights where they both look like they're doing nothing. I feel like Norma Dumont is going to find herself on the mat at some point. Like, I feel like she can get takedowns. I feel like if the fight is standing, she just is going to land a bit more with that counter striking, with the hooks that she throws. But I feel like Ketlen Viera is going to ground her at some point, and once she gets to the ground, I don't expect Norma Dumont to get back up. And I don't think it's a matter of ability. I think it's a matter of will. I think if she gets taken down, she's just going to concede the position. She's probably going to try to work off of her back. Ketlen Viera is going to stay heavy on top, stay safe, win the round. This fight has over written all over it. Take the over. Put your grandmother's house on the over. The over will hit in this one. Ketlen Viera by decision. Monserrat Conejo is not somebody who's going to be winning fights in the UFC all that often. She beat Cheyenne Vlismas, and that was cool once upon a time, but she is a little bit undersized for the division, and she doesn't really have the pedigree to back it up, right? I'm not seeing a rich history of grappling or striking that lead me to believe that she's going to win. win versus Alice Ardelean, who, like we talked about with Chang earlier, is just going to give you more. Alice Ardelean just going to keep fighting, and she's going to win because of that. I think that she's just going to put more out there. She's going to throw more strikes. She's not going to get taken down. If she is taken down, she's going to get back up to her feet. I think Alice Ardelean, rightfully a big favorite. These odds are flipped. Excuse me. These odds are flipped. Monserrat, Ruiz, it's not minus 400. I think Alice Ardelean is supposed to be there, but Alice Ardelean by decision. This is a fun one. You have Phil Rowe, big size advantage, got that boxing. I think he can land on this guy, and he should be able to with that size, with that reach. My problem with Phil Rowe is that he's consistently inconsistent. Seok, he's gone out there and beaten Oban Elliott as a pretty big underdog, like just took Oban Elliott's lunch money, bullied him, and Oban Elliott bullies people. But Ko, supremely confident. He's got the grappling advantage here, and for me, I think that Phil Rowe is kind of getting boosted up because of the win over Angelusa. Angelusa was doing whatever he wanted before he gassed and gassed hard. We've seen guys kind of get away with that against Phil Rowe, and for him to come back and win, that's cool. It's probably a confidence builder, but the guy gassed hard. I don't think that Ko is going to do that. I think Ko is going to stay in his face. I think he's going to eat up that space. I think he's going to take away that reach advantage because they're going to be so close, and he's going to take Phil Rowe down. Hard not to be impressed with how he looked in his UFC debut, and Phil Rowe has let us down plenty of times. I don't know if I'm seeing a resurgence at 35. I think Ko is just hitting that fighting prime, so give me Seok Ko. I think he ends up winning inside the distance. And lastly, I love Talita Alencar in this spot. Love. I know it looks like she's fighting a muscle hamster. I know it looks like, oh, how is she going to take her down? She's so big and so strong looking, and she has really bad takedown defense, does Arniani Carnellosi. Talita Alencar will sell out round after round to get these takedowns, and in top position, she's a problem. We saw that against Vanessa Demopoulos, just completely dominated her on the mat. We saw it against Stephanie Luciano, where she just kept looking for takedowns. I see her doing the same thing this week, but securing these takedowns. Arniani Carnellosi might be able to get back up to her feet, but Alencar is going to get her back to the mat time and time again. She's given up some size, given up some strength, of course, but I think the technique coming from Alencar is going to be a little bit too much for Carnellosi to close the gap. Love the grappling edge there, and I think she ends up winning this fight by decision. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm, and I will see you next week. Let's go.